Now hear the word of the Lord from Isaiah 9:6-7. For a child is born to us, a son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and its peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. The passionate commitment of the Lord of heaven's armies will make this happen. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. All right, students, settle down over there. Well, good morning, Sojourn. Peace be with you. It's good to see you all. Good to be with you. Welcome. If you're a guest or if you're visiting with us, my name is Jonah, and I'm one of the pastors here at Sojourn. The mission of our church can be summarized in 3 words: reach, build, send. We exist to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and then to build each other up as Jesus' church and send each other to follow Jesus. So thank you so much for being here to be a part of it. If you can't tell by the large body of water in front of us, it's Baptism Sunday. Again, here we are again. Really grateful for that, grateful for what the Lord's doing, and how often we're seeing this happen. So guests who are here for that, thank you for being here on a really special day. Grateful for all of you to be here. We're in our year-end giving season. Our year-end giving fund, I suppose, is called a Merry Mission. That's right. We've got Merry Mission and Merry Market. If you want to know more about what all is going on, you can grab one of these cards at the welcome table on the way out. In essence, we're trying to raise $50,000 into one big bucket and then send that to the organizations described on the back of this. They all have something to do with taking care of vulnerable children in our community. And so grateful for those who have participated so far. If you'd like to give to it, you can give online. Make sure you hit the year-end giving pull-down menu. Or if you'd like to give via check, students, these are small pieces of paper that you'd write on, give to people. Your parents can explain it to you. But in the memo line of those things called checks, just write year-end giving. Wanted to take a second and talk about every week until the end of the year, we're talking about one thing, one part of one organization that we're supporting through Merry Mission, and pretty fun. This Saturday is the Women's Gift Exchange. Ladies? Sorry, fellas. If one of you want to start the men's gift exchange, we are ready. Just waiting for a dude. That dude's going to do it. All right, Harrison, you volunteered. So this is about to make some of us feel old. This Saturday at 10 a.m. is the Women's Gift Exchange. This marks our 25th year of doing the Women's Gift Exchange. Feel a little bit old. It's a beautiful time of worship, fellowship, fun. Every year, the ladies raise some money as part of the Women's Gift Exchange to give to a local charity. This year, the money is going to Merry Mission, and part of that is going to go to saltine crackers at Slate Run Elementary. This is an ongoing thing that we do throughout the year. Over by the Hershey Kisses, where all the children are congregated in between services in the lobby, there's big boxes where we have ongoing donations. And if you don't know why we do women's gift saltine cracker donations, I shall inform you. No, I'm sorry, you're about to get another 6-7 here, students. It's just the reality of it. At Slate Run Elementary, so that's an elementary school about a half a mile down the road, 67%, so this part isn't funny. The 6-7 is funny, but this part isn't funny. 67% of students at Slate Run Elementary are either on free or reduced lunch. What that means is I think there's roughly 400 students at Slate Run Elementary. Does that sound right? 400-ish? 67% of them cannot afford to buy lunch. If they cannot afford to buy lunch, they cannot afford to bring a snack to school. What happens is the teachers, out of their own pockets, are buying snacks for these students to come. And you can imagine what it might feel like to be in 5th grade, 6th grade. Remember how wonderful those middle school years were? And like to be the only kid in the room who doesn't have a snack. And so they've asked us, we've been doing this for several years, to help provide them with saltine crackers for snacks for kids who can't afford to bring their own snacks. So money raised from the Women's Gift Exchange will go towards that. But it's not just a Christmas thing where they need this. So if you find yourself at Walmart and they got that smoking deal on saltine crackers, we will take all of them and you can drop them in the box as they come in. So it's a small, easy way to make a significant impact in one of our local schools that's just down the street. So again, that's just a portion of what the Mary Mission funds are going to go to. Whatever's left at the end, we're trying to raise $50,000. Whatever's left at the end, we're setting aside to go to, we're rebuilding the playground out here to be an inclusive playground. So folks with sensory issues, folks with mobility issues, and those are expensive. So that's where that money's going to go to. Again, if you want to give online, just make sure you hit year-end giving in the memo line, or if you write that check, hit that in the memo line, write year-end giving. And then if you're a member, next Sunday, right after church on the 7th, we're having a member meeting, which is just like a big family meal. We'll present the budget for next year to you, give you this year's budget recap, and then you guys will have a few weeks to review it and ask any questions. If you want to make it a feast, and not just like an awkward church get-together, we need you to sign up for either a dessert or a side dish. I suggested bringing leftover Thanksgiving food in the first service, and I was informed that was too long after Thanksgiving, so don't do that, please. Yeah, you can RSVP. There's a link on the People of Sojourn Albany Facebook page. You can stop by the welcome table, but if you could bring a side or a dessert, that would be fantastic. Another reason for excitement is today is the first Sunday of Advent, so we have arrived. Thank you for everyone who made the Christmas decorations. If you haven't been in the kids' wing yet, it's particularly magical. I heard a 9-year-old run down the hall and say, "These are the best decorations ever." So it really feels magical over there. And thank you all to everyone. It was a lot of work last Sunday and throughout the week to make this space. And yeah, thanks. So if you are new to experiencing Advent, or if you're like, I thought this was a Protestant church, what are we doing in Advent? A couple of things. We're not real rigid about this, but I'm just going to try to explain a couple things for you. First of all, Advent is not Christmas. These are intended to be separate things, that we've kind of mushed them together here in modern life. Historically, the church, capital C church, has a calendar that operates outside of our civic calendar. Kind of like the school calendar, and then you've got your everyday calendar, or sometimes your work life is a little bit different than school life. And so the brilliance of the church calendar, historically, why Christians have done this, is that it creates space for us to voice and rehearse all that we are as humans. That's one of the reasons we do liturgy in our services every week. Maybe you're not always feeling the thing that happens, the call to worship, where we're excited and joyful. And you're like, I'm not feeling particularly joyful. It's a way to practice. How do we voice joy? Confession, lament. Maybe not necessarily sad that Sunday, but it's a way to practice and rehearse for the times when it will come. And so Advent marks the start of the Christian calendar. This is kind of like the Christian New Year. And the year begins in Advent as a time of preparation and longing. So Advent is intended to be a time of darkness, a time of slowness. We begin with one candle, not all the candles. The colors are intended to be more subdued. And so Advent is a time that's intended to create space for us to talk about things like, unmet expectations. Anybody have any of those? You notice you didn't even know the expectation until it was unmet, and now you're there with an unmet expectation. A time to talk about things like unfulfilled hopes, unfulfilled dreams. Advent is a time, this is pretty crazy in our culture right now, where we choose to enter darkness. How much of our modern life is spent trying to avoid it or pretend as though it isn't there? But Christians say, no, we're going to take a whole chunk of our year to choose to enter darkness. We're going to choose to enter slowness. We'll choose to focus on some of the more difficult realities of what it means to be a human. So these weeks of Advent, of longing and expectation, are intended to then give way to the season of Christmas, which begins on December 25th and lasts. Anyone know how long the Christmas season lasts? 12 days. Now you know where the song came from, the 12 days of Christmas. On the first day of, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but the 12 days of Christmas. That's a time of light, of joy, and celebration. And the Christmas season culminates on a huge party. Anybody know what the feast is called? The Epiphany Feast. Milo! The kids are killing it this morning. The Feast of Epiphany. And that's where this whole church, you'll see signs up. We come together. We try to turn this building into like a Viking mead hall where we all sing and sit and celebrate and rejoice. And so this is the rhythm of the calendar. Our times of darkness and longing where we sit in Advent, soon replaced by times of light, of joy, of feasting. This is unnatural for most of us, or at least unfamiliar, to focus on darkness for a while. And you may be wondering, well, why do we do this? Why would we do this? Well, one reason, and maybe this is too obvious to say, but one of the reasons we do this is because we live this. Life is this way. Pretending like life is not at times, not only and always, but pretending like life at times is not disappointing and dark and hard. It's like pretending you don't have a deep cut on your arm, like a big gash that needs stitches. A lot of us come from families where we basically were learned, like, we don't do cuts in this family. And you're like, but I have a cut, but it's there. No, you don't. Put a shirt on. And any guesses what happens if you have a huge cut, bleeding, deep, bone-exposed cut that you ignore for like a week? What happens to that cut? It gets an infection, and the slightest touch can set you on fire. And then suddenly you spend your whole life in defense of this cut that you're pretending like it isn't even there. Pretend all you want, but if you do not attend to the pain, it will become infected. And that will affect all of your life. Here's just a simple way to think about it. Pain unvoiced always becomes toxic. Pain ignored always metastasizes. It spreads. And what's more, you cannot ignore the darkness in your life without also ignoring the light in your life. You cannot numb yourself of the pain of darkness without also numbing yourself of the delight of light. So we're setting aside time to learn to name these realities, first and foremost, because they are realities, because it's real. And we want to be a people that can talk about what's real. It's our only chance to integrate the darkness into our life and remain tender-hearted, soft, hopeful. So we do this because we need this, and we do this because we live this, and we do this because we need this. Christianity is so delightfully unique. And I don't know anyone else that does this, where we say life is hard. We don't sugarcoat it. We don't try to whitewash it or be dismissive of it. Christians acknowledge life is hard, and we acknowledge it's not supposed to be. Did you know that? Life is not supposed to be hard? By voicing our longings, by being honest about them, honest about our pain, our hearts can turn and hope will rise within us. We do this in rhythm with God's design. And in that way, we don't receive a pie-in-the-sky wishful thinking kind of a hope, where we just pretend like it's all going to be great. We receive the hope that all sad things will be undone because God will keep his promises. And he has promised that light will shine on us because light was meant to shine on us. We were meant to be covered in light, not darkness. So Isaiah chapter 9, we'll be in this throughout all of Advent. We have these rich promises where Isaiah is telling us what the Lord has told him. How will the God, really all of Isaiah chapter 9 is answering the question for us, how will God bring about his promised victory? How is he going to win the war? So at the beginning of chapter 9, Isaiah says, that time of darkness and despair will not go on forever. And it's like another one of those verses that just makes me love the Bible. I find this verse so lovely because the Bible both acknowledges it's dark out there, that despair is real, And then the Bible also reminds us that the darkness won't last forever. Advent reminds us that pain is real and pain is temporary. So Advent invites us to acknowledge what's wrong in ourselves, our bodies, our relationships, and what's wrong in our world. And then Advent reminds us and helps us to remind each other that this darkness is temporary. How can you say it's temporary with such confidence? Verse 2, Isaiah says, the people who walk in darkness will see a great light. I don't know if you've ever been lost in the woods before, especially at night. It's a terrifying experience. The tiniest bit of light off in the distance, it just draws people to it like a flame, like a moth to a flame. That little bit of light in the darkness draws us. The promise is that light is coming and that this light will pierce and overcome the darkness. After verse 2, Isaiah describes what the light overcoming the darkness is like. He says it's like a party thrown after the harvest. Can you imagine how safe and secure you would feel heading into winter knowing that you have full barns? He says it's like soldiers who share treasure after war. He says the light piercing the darkness is like the celebration we'll throw when we take all of the soldiers' uniforms and burn them, because war is no more, because oppression is no more, because violence is no more. Light will pierce the darkness. We can say with confidence that the darkness is temporary because our promise-keeping God has said it will be so. Light will come, but it's more than just light. Verse 6, for a child is born to us. A son is given to us. Again, all of chapter 9 here in Isaiah is answering the question, how will God save us? How will his victory come about? God has promised restoration, justice, and salvation. How will this happen? How will God fulfill his promise? How will victory come? And just take a second and inventory. What does our culture think of when we think of victory? How does that typically come about? What are we looking for? How will God's victory come about? Not with an army, not with missiles, not with bombs or guns, not with volume or violence. I hope that sounds delightful for you. Not with destruction. The God of love and mercy will not win the way we so often want, not with overwhelming firepower, but with a child. Which I'm guessing this story is a little familiar for most of us, but can you imagine if you were hearing this for the first time, how unexpected that would sound? How gentle, how inviting, a child. We're in a season of life in our church where there's a lot of babies being born. Thanks be to God. It's a gift. It's a privilege. And I understand, I see this with guys more than girls. We're a little bit scared of the baby when their head doesn't work yet, you know? Because what if the head falls off, we don't want to drop it. Which, if you haven't held a baby, it's understandable. But nobody is scared of the child, you know? When you see, I see a baby right there. Like when you see your friend walk in with the baby carrier, you're not like, what's that thing going to do to me? Even if you're nervous about handling the child properly, when you see that baby, you lean in and you smile and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. How inviting. How gentle. How will God's victory come about? A child. The language, the structure of these verses really emphasize the humanness of the child. This is a real human who's come to be among us. And that this child is the fulfillment of divine promise. So the language is showing us that there is a God child coming to us. And it says the child will be a son. Well, why is it important that this child's a boy? Because he was promised to be a king in the royal line of David. This is the fulfillment of God's promises. A human God, royal son is born in fulfillment of all of God's long-awaited promises. So the light breaking in the darkness is a child a royal-born Son of God and Son of Man, and see what he will do for his burdened people. The government will rest on his shoulders. Such a relief. I mean, politics isn't divisive at all right now, is it? And that's great. I bet some of you had some great conversations at Thanksgiving. But hopefully something all Christians can agree on is that there's only one person whose shoulders can carry the government, and that person's name is Jesus. We are not a people who look to this guy or that lady and say they're the chosen one. Only they can save us. The burden of that's been on our shoulders for so long will be lifted off of us, and he himself will take his burdens upon himself. This child will come to relieve burdens from us and accept it onto himself. The light shining in the darkness is a child, a God King, born of a human, filled with divinity. This child will lead us. He will govern us. He will restore us. He will save us. And Isaiah says he will be called. This is more than saying what his name will be. Particularly in Hebrew culture. Hebrew does things as a language that English can't do. Hebrew is kind of like 4K, HD, 3D with smell-o-vision. The language is deeper than what English is capable of. So if you read the Bible, which we're in favor of here, it's helpful to read it in lots of English translations to get the sense of what's going on in these other languages. To say he will be named, or other translations will say we shall call him. It's to define his character. To say he will be called is to say this is what this one will be like. It sums him up as a person. It's a statement of both his nature and his purpose. The name is a promise of who he is and what he will do. Again, these names answer for us. How will the victory of the Lord come about? It'll come about through a child. Well, what does that mean? And then we receive names. Each week of Advent, we'll look at a different name of the Lord to understand who is this child? What is he like? And what will he do for us? So if you're new to church, or if you're exploring what all of this means, if you want to know what God is like, you need to look at Jesus. And if you want to know what Jesus is like, meditate on the name of the Lord. And so Isaiah tells us he will be called Wonderful Counselor. Wonderful Counselor. 2 words make up the first name of the Lord. First, we get wonderful. It's a 4K 3D word in Hebrew. It means extraordinary. It means hard to be understood, almost with the sense of something beyond belief or miraculous, hard to wrap our mind around. It can mean marvelous. It can mean incomprehensible. It's often used to describe the way God acts in the world. In the Old Testament, it's used almost exclusively in poetry, praising God for showing us what he's like. So it's a poetry word. It's meant to stir our hearts. It's a word so big that it has to stir the imagination to try to give us a sense of what it means. It means that this child will do things beyond the scope of human activity. This child will do things that only God can do. He's wonderful, marvelous, miraculous. And so what is this marvelous thing this child will do? This royal God child will be for us a miraculous counselor. Incredible. How will the victory of God come about? Miraculous counseling. Oh, I find that so wonderful. Who goes to counseling? I didn't mean that like who in here, though God bless you. A little life hack. Who should go to counseling? All of us, right? Amen. And if you're there saying like, I don't know, counseling's not for me, that's so silly. That's just like your sign, buddy, that you might want to think about counseling. All of us should. But maybe another way to think about what I'm trying to say, who chooses counseling? Not at the end of an ultimatum, not at a threat. People choose counseling when they know they need help. People choose counseling. They initiate it and they pursue it when they know they're hurting, when they know they're suffering, they know they're struggling, and so they reach out, often at the end of their rope, looking for hope. This child is one who gives us miraculous counseling, miraculous guidance, miraculous advice, which there's a lot we can take away from that. But one of the things I hope you hear is that this means that the child has come to help. He's come to relieve, to lead, and to heal. I didn't know this when I signed up for my vocation, but, I'll just put it this way. The amount of pain that I've been around in the last 15 years is overwhelming. If you're thinking about going to seminary, you need to find some way to also prepare for the amount of pain you will have to endure, because they don't teach you that at seminary. And I don't know how much pain you've been around, but there's something I've noticed that heals pain more than anything else. Something that relieves pain, those burdens of soul that we carry in life. And I'll tell you, it's not an explanation of your pain, which can be helpful. I'm not against answers or explanation in any way, but you know this, like knowing why you have cancer. It can be helpful, but it's not relieving. Knowing why your relationship is breaking down, knowing why you're anxious, this can be helpful, but that only goes so far. Understanding something, identifying a thing is not the same as relieving or healing the thing. And as someone who's spent a lot of time with counselors, I'll tell you the best counselors give you very little advice. I'm not saying they give you none advice. They give you very little. The best counselors give you curious, compassionate presence. What relieves pain looks less like an answer and more like a hug. The understanding smile of a friend who's been through something like what you're going through. Even something as simple as a hand on your knee as you tell a painful story. Presence heals. Compassion heals. So what an unexpected way for light to pierce the darkness. To come not to conquer, but to heal. Miraculous presence. Our culture, we don't just look for it, we celebrate leaders that wield incredible power to destroy our enemies. We want armies and answers and revenge. And just how much human history must we live before we see how vain that is? How hollow revenge is? How violence only perpetuates and begets violence? The Lord, the almighty maker of heaven and earth, shows us how his victory will come about. And it's not through meeting our cultural expectations. He doesn't come with an entourage. He doesn't come with an Instagram reel. He doesn't come with a marketing campaign. He doesn't come to a throne, but to a stable. Not with an army, but as a child. And not to conquer, but to counsel. And so we're reminded that as we voice the darkness in our lives, in our world, this Advent season, that we voice this to one who is for us a wonderful counselor, one who would heal us, not conquer us, one who would save us, not condemn us, one we can trust because he is safe and compassionate and understanding. And I suspect if you knew you had miraculous, hard-to-believe help, if you knew your darkness would not last forever, and there was one available to you who was eager to listen, to comfort, to give you their full attention and presence, I think you would do for that person the same thing you would do to any dear friend. We would make time this season simply to be with them. As you get older and you think about those who are dear to you, and you think about the holidays, and you dream about what you would do with them, isn't there not a part of you that's just like, I just want to be with them. I just want to be together. One of the secrets to the Christian life is you relate to God the way you relate to everybody else. If you want to make the most of this opportunity, just like any counseling session, just like any relationship, be it with a spouse or a friend, just oversimplify. I just think there's two skills required. The first is you have to cultivate the skill of truth telling, honesty. Yeah, I got to take the risk of honesty. We have to be a people who have the courage to tell the Lord what is actually real, not only what's ideal. Not only praying for what should be, but also talking about what actually is. If this is a time of darkness or disappointment for you, you say that to him. If this is a time of longing and expectation for you, say that to him. Whatever you are, wherever you are, however you are, you can be honest with the Lord about it. Second skill, you have to cultivate this very rare ability called listening. You cannot receive divine guidance, divine comfort, if you do not have the courage to listen for it. This is one of the craziest things about the Christian life. We are making the claim that the God of the universe will speak to you. I hear oftentimes people say things like, well, the Lord doesn't speak to me. Or I wish he would speak to me. Or I haven't heard the voice of the Lord speak to me. And a great question to ask in response to that is, how often are you listening? And what makes this difficult is that, the voice of the Lord, he just doesn't kick down doors and scream at us. He came like a child. The voice of the Lord is often whispered to us, unassuming ways, which means we must become a people of curiosity and quiet. But here's I rarely will make you guys a guarantee, but I will do so now. If you become a person acquainted with curiosity and silence, if you learn to be honest with the Lord and then listen for his miraculous voice, he will speak to you. Try it. Watch what happens. In the stillness, over time, you will come to experience why the name of the Lord is Wonderful Counselor. If you're willing and able, stand with me and we'll pray together.